give it to you. And I'm going to speak this not only to your brain, but I'm going to speak it to your spirit. And I'm going to sow a seed into you today that I have an expectation for it to grow. And so there's this, I've talked about the end of the age and how the end of every age is chaotic. And there's always huge change and shifts in every aspect. And there's this consummation happening in this age of time and of the intent of Yahweh in His plan for this planet. And there's this revolution that's happening, and there's a fulfillment that is taking place, and there's a completion of a lot of the dynamics that have been operating in the realm of the Spirit for at least 6,000 years, where God is letting His plan work out. So, this operation of the Spirit is now coming to a completion. That's why I'd rather live right now than any other time in history. You know, there's less crime than any time in history. There's more conveniences. How many thank God for the air conditioner? Amen? My daddy wouldn't even run our air conditioner. We only had one, unless we had company, right, Charlotte? And how did we cool the house? Tell them. No. Window fan. Well, window fan, yeah. Ceiling. That might have been ceiling. So, you know, and we didn't really know the difference, did we? Not hardly. But we might have known the difference. But so there's a completion coming, and it's happening, listen to me, by the Spirit. I've taught you this. You can't have just the Word. If you get the Word, you'll get legalistic, because that's what your flesh will do. And you'll start putting boundaries and things upon people, because you'll get mad. You'll get mad about what you are failing in, possibly, and you won't have mercy and grace for others. So we come to this place, and it's happening through all, and it's being manifested through all various means and all various ways. But I want to tell you that not necessarily the channels that we might think Yahweh should come through. A couple of weeks ago, a man in the church came to me, and he asked me about this movie that he saw. And he told me that that movie really inspired him and really touched him. And when he told me the name of the movie, I'm like, I hated the book. I hated the book. And I'm sure the movie was just the book. But Yahweh told me to be careful, because He'll use all kind of stuff to do what He's going to do. You understand what I just said? You don't know how He's going to work. You don't know. And I think if we think we know, then that shows that we really don't. So if Yahweh wants to use a movie that this man in our church went to, and Yahweh spoke to him through that movie, guess what? More power to Him. I'm going to tell you, years ago, I went and watched Star Wars, the very first one. This is about 1937 and 38, something like that. And so, that's some people think. And so what happened is, in that Star Wars movie, I mean, come on. Darth Vader was Satan, right? Luke Skywalker was Jesus. I mean, I put it that way, and where it was. So I know that there's these channels, and if I were to mention some, I did that one, I don't think people will be totally in and could agree with what I'm saying, because you would say probably, and those listening probably would say, like I have said, I don't think God works that way. I think that even through the circumstances of the changes that are happening today in the natural realm, in our government that we're in, let me stop and say this. If Trump gets rid of IRS, it's going to be a happy day in America. You say, well, I don't like Trump. If Satan got rid of the IRS, because there is a subconscious cloud over us of slavery and taxation. And I want to tell you that, you're afraid. I was telling somebody the other day, whenever I do my taxes, well, I got a lady that does them, you know, H&R Blocker lady, and so I go and mail it, and usually it's after an extension, right, Jonathan? Or usually it's after, you know, the last day, and so I go to that mailbox, a blue one outside grocery stores, you know, that like that. They got that little lever like that, and I put it in, I'm like, how many of you check it like 6 times? You know, make sure it's in there, because by God, you don't want to be late and the IRS come and do something to you and hurt us and take our house away. I mean, there is a subconscious heaviness of slavery and bondage to that stuff. And I want to tell you what, people right now are mean. Who was it? Was it you, Reggie, telling me about how mean people are? Somebody's telling me about everybody's mean. Everybody's mad at the world. And I believe they are. But if they do get away with IRS, you're going to have some happy people. Oh, don't mind me. No, you go. No, beep, beep, no. Oh, hey, I'm just waving at you. No, you go. No, you go. I mean, it's going to be a beautiful day. I got that off my chest. So, you know, the changes in the government that we're in, the international turmoil, the uncovering of the American church, the daggone weather, you know, man's financial structures are failing. And all those things are being used by the energies of the Elohim who direct nations and time and people. And I'm going to use this word, and I want you to apply this word to you, and that's the word religion, because you can get religious about this gospel. I said, you can get religious about this gospel. And it's not about religion. Don't get your record player stuck on religion. Don't get your record player stuck on, we believe this, 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 and this, and then we're going to build we ain't built no camp around that. We're not going to stop and build a fortress around what we know. We're not going to cause us to be like a denomination. We're not going to do that. We are adding to ourselves, but we are still going and growing and moving. Doing that is nothing more than a modality of human thought. It's something we create our own. There's certain thoughts to try to meet the obligation of the cry of the Spirit. And what we're doing is trying to avoid dying. We'll do anything but die. We'll give money. We'll do all this. And a lot of us want to keep alive the things that Yahweh demands that must die. And when you do that, there's always trouble. If you don't believe me, ask Saul. He lost his anointing. And the thing he tried to save, the king Agag, that God told Saul to kill everything in that kingdom, he brought all the cows back, the good cows, and all the good sheep. I mean, the prize-winning sheep like that we had in our Passover supper that time. Remember that, Gloria? And I'll tell that story later. And he brought back the king, and this was his mindset. Oh, we'll use that to honor Yahweh with what we're saving. When God said, kill it, let it die. And so he said, Saul, the prophet said, Saul, did you do what Yahweh said? He said, yeah. He said, well, what is that bleating of sheep I hear? What is that mooing of the cows that I hear? And he brought Agag, and instead of letting him die simple, the prophet took a sword and hacked him to death. And you will hack to death what you don't let die, because you can never keep what you can see. Y'all hear what I just said? You can never keep what you can see. What you can't see is real, and that's what we've been talking about, being able to reach by faith. Somebody told me they didn't believe in that. And I said, well, why are you wearing that mask? They said, because of COVID. I said, yeah, well, what do you mean? Well, if there's COVID. I said, I don't see any COVID. Do you see COVID? Did you ever see COVID? We see the symptoms of it, but you can't see COVID. You can't see bacteria, but you know it's there because you by faith believe it's there. But the fact is, the things that God has that for us doesn't mean it's not there. We just can't see them. Are y'all with me today? All right. I'm glad you are. Man's created these thoughts and these models. So, okay, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. Okay, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. to understand the ways of the uncreated one. And unsuccessfully and tragically, religion has categorized what you know and has organized what you know. You know why? Because that's how we do it. We take everything and put them in a category, and then we're going to judge everything by that category of our own little ignorant boxes of how God's going to move. That can't be God. Well, guess what? It was God that touched the guy who watched a movie about a book that I couldn't stand. We've created certain thoughts to try and meet the obligation of that. And it's so easy, like I said, to take what we know with all the knowledge that you have and make that our religion. Here we are. Yeah, we know whether you go to heaven or hell or not, but we don't love our brother. We gossip and backbite. We're jealous and envious. We're not interested in enough about this that we don't even come to assemble. So knowing stuff don't mean diddly squat, and that's a King James word. Learning and knowing without relationship with Yahweh and Yahshua and His body. And if you don't love me, you don't love Yahweh, is what the Bible says. If you're not concerned about us, then you're not concerned about God. There's no way you can say you love God and not love the body. And people don't want to hear that. But they do want to hear, okay, Johnny, send me the notes on hell. Send me the notes on absent from the body, because they want to prove to those people that don't agree with them, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I wish you all would do that. But we can get an attitude about it, I think, when we don't tend to the more important matters. Learning and knowing. We have to escape the chains of ignorance and present thought. I want you to say that word to me. Present thought. What you are thinking right now ain't enough. You can think and know things, but if it doesn't become flesh and cause you to love the brethren. I've told several people this actually this year probably. And that is, after all my studying, and I'll put that up with anybody. I'll measure that with almost anybody. Hours and hours that I've studied and sought after God and learned and all those kind of things. When it's all said and done, and it's important, and without knowing it, you can't even go on into perfection or maturity. But it all comes back down to one thing, and that's 1 John 1:7-8. Beloved, let us love one another. For he that loveth knoweth God, and is born of God. He that loveth not knoweth not God. It all comes back down to that. What about the doctrines, Johnny? You got to have that too. Excuse me. But we have to, there are these chains of ignorance, and our present thought can bring us into deception. I am always looking to move on. I'm always looking to change. And I sure ain't going to let somebody's present belief and their present thought keep me from moving on to more of who God really is, because we don't know yet. Will you admit that? Because if you knew Him, you would be like Him, and guess what? And you would love. How do I know that? I just quoted the scripture. He that loveth not knoweth not God. And so we can deceive ourselves. And listen to me, that's why people can't ever break through. Somebody, why can't I ever get a break? Because you don't know how to break through. I mean, the things that Johnny said today are basic. I mean, that's basic milk Bible stuff. But there's the requirements that Yahshua demands. This ain't for the faint of heart. This ain't for somebody who just wants to be a casual inquirer. Yahweh said, I will reward those that diligently seek Him. Not laying around and be a casual inquirer, every once in a while. I teach about mercy. I preach one of the best messages I ever preached. Not that my performance was good, but the word about mercy I preached. Are you merciful now? I spoke that word here. It's the word of the Lord to us. Without mercy, Yahshua could never have healed any man. It was by his mercy he did it. Not because I got faith and I'm doing it. He was moved by compassion, and he saw the need of a person, and what that did, that pulled out of him. The anointing of God came out of him and touched people and made them whole. I used to, when the Word of Faith movement came out, I got sick of going to conferences to teach me how to heal the sick. And I went to all of them. If I name the big names, they're not big names anymore. People don't know. But they were big at the time. How to heal the sick. How to heal the sick. You know what the problem is? They were all learning how to heal the sick, but nobody ever got healed. I don't want another book or conference or tape series on how to heal the sick. But they were like, put the tape in, put the tape in, put the tape in. But nobody ever healed the sick. I want to tell you why. Because they never dealt with the issues, and that's mercy. I tell you what I think. I think somebody that's just merciful, that don't know anything, but has love and compassion for somebody, has the potential of healing somebody way more than people that can just quote the scriptures on it. I teach you about giving. Do you give? Teach people about tithing. Do they tithe? I teach you about gathering, assembling. Where are they? I teach people about love. Well, do we really love others and esteem others more than we do our own self? And their interest is more important to us than our own? Yahshua said this, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify the Father in heaven." That's pretty amazing to me. We had a young man come visit the church the other day, and he had an agenda with me, and you know I kind of smelled it when I saw him, but I think the guy's sincere, and I think he's searching for truth, and so you know he asked me some questions, and he ultimately wanted to talk to me about works. I'm like, man, I'm tired. You know, I'm hungry. I just want, well, if you want to meet later, you know, I would be willing to do that. If you're serious about relationship, I'll be glad to meet with you. And he reacted to me a little bit, and he said, yeah, you don't think what I'm saying is important. I'm like, yeah. And that attitude is why I don't really want to meet with you. I don't want to be contentious about these things. That don't mean I ain't going to be strong about them. Amen? I don't mean I'm not going to disagree and teach you, but I'm talking about with an attitude. And I hope I get to meet with a guy. I hope he's watching me this morning. And I hope I get to meet with him. I was out of town last week and couldn't, and then, well, anyhow. But the work thing that we see is a big subject. It's not a 5-sentence deal. If a man has a light, I used to sing a song as a child that says, what I shouldn't do with that light. I shouldn't hide it under a bushel. Thank you. Who said that? There you go. No, don't let Satan it out, right? Well, we know who Satan is. We know it's our flesh and all that. And that's what that bushel represents. We hide that thing in our flesh. So what he's really saying is this: don't blow it out yourself. Don't blow it out yourself. See? So we're well acquainted with that scripture, and it occurred to me that maybe really the thought in Yahshua's mind, and I like to believe that this was being transferred in the mind-heart connection that I'm having with Yahshua. You know, I'm trying to understand him, how he thought that way, why he thought that way, how that will apply to me. And I like to believe that this was being transferred there. So I was aware that Yahshua, in my opinion, was not thinking about blowing my light out at all, really, but that he was concerned about the light that He was, and my God, why wouldn't He be? How would you like for God to put that on you? You're the light of the world. I may be the light to my family, hopefully, and hopefully I'm a light here, and that you have a light here, and with your family. So my question is this, because I think it's an issue with our victory position. Who are you shining your light to? We got this good news and all. We ain't tell nobody nothing. You know why? Because they won't receive it. Well, hell, they don't want to hear about your gator stuff either. But you're bold about that. That might be the problem here. Nobody believes this, is what they tell me. Nobody believes it. Well, we don't believe those other fishing stories you tell us either. True? Well, there's victory, Johnny, but tell you because you're a hoarder. You're a hoarder and you're denying people the opportunity that you got from me. And you shut up your bowels of mercy. I'm the light of the world. This guy Yahshua, man, he said, I'm the light of the world. If any man hears me, he will not walk in darkness. That guy, man. Yahweh said, my son, I have sent you. You're a light to the world. And you come with that thought in your mind that I'm the light of the world and I have this message. And then there's the Pharisees. And then there's the Sadducees. And there's his disciples that can't hear him. And there's his mother who's got her own plans for him. And he says, hey, but I'm the light of the world. And he got all this crap around him. And to me, I would think this way. Father, how are you ever going to make this work? Have you ever said that? How is it ever going to work? They don't believe it. They don't accept it. They don't do this. How is it ever going to work? What's going to happen? This transforming thought that you are bringing in, the hope that we have for those who have ears to hear, your perfect plans for humanity, Yahweh, how are you ever going to evolve this into reality in this planet with us? With me, I'm nothing. I'm insignificant. How are you ever going to do this? What's the plan? And then the Spirit speaks. Well, if a man has a great house and he's got a light, who's responsible for putting that light in a high place? Is the light responsible to climb up the candlestick, the lampstand on its own, and placing itself in the middle of the lampstand? I'm referring to Revelation, but about the church being taken out, which it has been, but I won't get into that. But I do know it is a type and shadow that I know I can have my candlestick removed too. And I live under not the fear of that, but the knowledge of that and the appreciation that I do know that, and I try to live my life in a way that Yahshua will never remove me from the candlestick. Who? The light's not responsible. The candle light responsible. Who? I think it's the owner of the house. He's the one that will look after getting that light and put it in a high place. And this burden of being the light of the world is far more than I conceive or bear. If you and I are the great householder, this house, and if it's our job to take that candle and put it in the middle of the candlestick, and I'm just going to trust you, Father, and do what I have to do, that you'll put me in a high place so my light will shine in all the worlds and all realms. That's Yahshua's thought. Now I have to adjust it to me. I don't know that we haven't been greedy here. And then we want to know why that don't work for us, why this don't work. We greedy with this gospel, man. And then we slowly share. For Yahshua, his high place became a Roman cross. For us, that's the way to a high place. Taking up our cross, choosing his will. Sometimes a high place is deserving of shameful, painful rejection and death, but also a tremendous resurrection power. and the enlargement of a dynamic on this planet that's never seen before in the world. And it's an open portal for the Spirit to come and to be the light of the world. And that's what Yahweh wants to come inside of you, and He wants you to let that light shine through you. So what happens if your sink's clogged? Or other articles or what do you call it? Okay, let's just say it. What happens when your toilet's clogged? You panic. And what do you yell to your wife and husband and all the members of the family? Where's the plunger? This morning, I'm the plunger. Plunge me to victory. That's victory in Jesus. They use the word plunge in that, see? Plunge me to victory. Those old guys could write some songs. They just said it, didn't they? Now we can see that 2,000 years ago, we can see what Yahshua did, but Yahshua, in his time, all he could see was what Moses had, the prophets, and all he could see was what had been. The ages that had been up to his time and this great wonderment in him. He was like, okay, I'm going to be the light of the world. I'm the fulfillment. Oh, okay, Yahweh, what you're going to do, you're going to interrupt everything, and you're going to put me right in the middle of all things, and you're telling me that that light that is in me exceeds and is greater than any light that's ever been on the planet. How can he bear such a truth? That's how I look at it. Well, the reason I was so identifying with Yahshua is because that's exactly how I feel about us. I mean, totally reversing the whole dynamic and saying we've been longing after God, and this is what we don't get, that it's really God longing after us. Listen to me now. We're going to get to the heart of this in a minute. This new book, man, there is a chapter called Disappointment. And I hope I can begin that chapter with us. Reversing the whole dynamic of us seeking after God and longing for that, and we didn't know that God's really longing after us. Remember I told you a couple of weeks ago, I preached this years and years ago. It was back when we were in the old haunted mansion is what people used to call it. And I said, Yahweh started entering my gates with thanksgiving. Y'all remember that? He started entering my courts with praise. He would come to me, and when I did something obedient, he would say, thank you, Johnny, and then he would praise me for it, just like he did the churches, 7 churches in Revelation. He said, man, you did. He reversed it. And I didn't realize that how do I live with that thought? We call it God manifestation, deity manifestation, God coming in us. And I know we preach about it, and the whole Bible talks about it, but really what we're talking about is how do you live with that truth? How do we allow that truth to live inside of us, that Yahweh is desiring for us, that we're His dream, we're His vision, to have sons and daughters and a people that would show forth His glory, to have a righteous planet. That's what Yahweh's dream is. He tried to start it with Adam and Eve. Right? Well, the only way we're going to live is we're going to have to let go of everything else. And that's where people hurt. I always put it this way to you. You got to come to the end of yourself. You might as well, because what you're fighting for and desiring probably isn't reality anyhow. But this is what I found out about Yahweh. He'll let you keep your stuff. Because the stuff ain't what it's about, really. I mean, It's not the stuff. But it's what that stuff represents. What does the stuff represent? Your desires, your hopes, your ambitions, what it is you want to be, all of it. Let it go for what, Johnny? I'm going to tell you. For a greater identity. For the knowing that this is the time of history for which I have been sent. There's my identity and validation when it's all said and done. I got stuff. And you have to come to the same realization. I've kind of prepared the way for you somewhat because I may be in my journey a little bit ahead of you. I can tell you, hey, don't do this, do that. I can help you. I can redeem your time. That's what I'm trying to do here. This is the place that I have been brought to. That's how I operate, and that's what happened between me and her. And people don't understand it because they don't live in a world of like I live in. That I know it's a time. It's a place now. I've always been this way, and I'm just getting better at it. How do we accept that? And this is what was interesting. You need a hurricane to come through your life. Some of you have had hurricanes in your life and didn't learn nothing. The hurricane has to come because I'll tell you what. When a hurricane has come and been in your life, nothing is the same anymore. I use hurricane because we're in Florida. The Bible uses it calls Yahweh, it says he's like a whirlwind. The Bible's full of whirlwinds. Read about them. A cyclone. My mama used to say this, boy, clean up this room, it looks like a cyclone struck it. Tornado. I saw one time on the news a tornado came, I think it was in Missouri, 6 miles long and a mile wide. And I want to tell you what that meant for the people that lived in that town. Destruction. It flattened that town out, the whole town. I mean, it left that path and just destroyed it. I'm going to tell you, when Yahweh really comes through your life, it's total devastation. Nothing that you thought you were remains. Everything is shattered. But what is it that's shattered? It's the mind constructs. That's what shattered. The way you think, that's what shattered. The way you perceive reality, that's what shattered. The way you think of Yahweh, that's what shatters. The way you think people should be, that's what shattered. All those forms of thought are like these rigid structures and prisons in our mind, and you don't know they're continually creating your life at you because you use them as your reality check, and they're wrong. They're wrong. Haven't we learned by now that we keep reaping stuff that ain't good? It's our mindsets. Some of y'all may not know this. Danette had a home, I say had because that's what it is, on Redditon Beach, Florida. Helene hit it. So she goes back down there. She's just going to, clean up. Well, it was more than clean up. And then Milton hits it. What? How many days later was it? 9? Yeah, you know exactly. She knows exactly. I mean, how do you think it would like to lose everything you got? Everything you got. No place to live. 5 feet of water in your house. Everything you own is gone, and you can only save a few things. A vehicle, nice vehicle, Grand Cherokee, rusted shut. You can't even put a key in it. You can't open the door. You can't, that hurricane comes. So now, in our lives, we have to change the way that we think. And I want to tell you what, not many people. Drive careful, baby. The only way for you to be delivered from the whirlwind of life, the tornado, the hurricane, the cyclone, when it comes through and level the place out until this is what I had to learn. I think Yahshua learned it. I learned it from him, hopefully. And because I haven't had many examples, because people don't want to go beyond a certain thing that they find a little success in. So they want to stop at that place where they're making the most money and have the biggest crowd, so to speak, if you're a preacher. Not me. And this is the place I had to get to in my mind constructs. Yahweh, I don't know anything. I know nothing. Y'all remember Hogan's Heroes? Sergeant Schultz? I know nothing. And I had to get to that place. Because until I got to that place, I was able to find out what I didn't know. And you, well, are welcome, because you're a benefactor of that place. I don't know anything. Man, I thought I knew stuff. I started reading the Bible then. But there's some things that are sure. And I just want to say a couple things here. I don't think that I can paint the picture well enough for you to just take it in your mind and make a construct there in your mind for you to live your life. I ain't trying to do that. I used to try to do that, but I learned this, that people, I don't have that power. And I don't care how good the message is, I don't know how good I preach it, or if it's line upon line and I've studied for 1,000 hours, which I have, people still are like this. They may mentally assent with the logic of it. Well, that makes sense. And it does. But this is just more than appeasing the logical side of your brain. That's got to happen too. No matter how great an oracle I may be, or an orator, or how poor, it really doesn't make much difference, in my opinion. Whatever I can communicate to you that can settle in your mind is not going to give you Yahweh. Did you hear me? You ain't going to talk nobody into nothing. Unless they're just not stupid. How many know what I'm talking about? That don't mean you don't tell them. That don't mean you don't preach the gospel to them. We will stand before Yahweh for not taking that kairos moment to tell somebody the gospel. We'll stand before it, and I don't know what the consequences are going to be. Well, I just don't think they could understand it, or they wasn't there, or they haven't this, and they didn't agree with it, and blah, blah. That ain't the issue. If that's the case, Yahshua came and did what he did, knowing that almost everybody would reject it. Look about Noah. So I know it's not going to be good enough to create a brain and a mind that wants God and serves God and has found the pearl of great price and will sell. I know that, but I'll tell you what, it could be a good start. I think it can be a really good start. It could be an inception point from where you've never been before when I start talking about this stuff, because you are hungry. You are desiring things, and you know there's something more even than just what hell really is. How many of you know that's baby stuff? Don't you think it's complicated too? It's an ignorant world. Heaven, hell, all this stuff, that ain't even milk, man. I don't know what that's placenta. That's placenta, man. That's isomil. How does that taste, Dick? How does isomil taste? He's had a glass of isomil one time, I remember. You can use a small inception point, a very small thought of origin that you've never thought before, and you can use it to push away the onslaught of all the ages and the life and traditions of former thinking that want to beleaguer your mind continually and fill you with thoughts of, listen, shame. Now we're getting to the roots. And judgment and condemnation and fear and doubt and disappointment. And really keep you where you can't have the power and strength and awareness of being where the least fear stops disabling you. My God. One little thing happens to people and they're, I'm going to tell you why this morning, all right? We're going to get to the root of this thing. And I'm trying to say it in a way that I haven't said it 1,000 times already. But I prayed this morning that your mind and your heart would be open and that this is a time for you. It's your time. See, this is my time. Yahweh told me something. I'm going to tell you, this is very personal. I'll tell you. Yahweh told me something. It didn't sound like Yahweh kind of to me, but Yahweh said, Johnny, this is your time. Because I've never let it be my time. I've always did it for other people. He said, see, you already misunderstood what I said. This is your time. This don't mean this is all about me. But it's a time for me of blessing and reward and deliverance from idolatry. There's a lot of idolatry in our lives. One of the worst ones can be family. Y'all want me to just pray and dismiss y'all now? Y'all hear me? It can be family. We'll talk about that in the weeks to come probably. There'll probably be a chapter on that. Where that one fear. Oh, what if it don't happen? What if it don't happen? Oh, this is my last chance I got. If I don't do it, last chance. Disable you, and you're curled up in a fetal position on the floor. How many of you ever been there? Me and Connie, but the rest of y'all liars. Come on, we're going to play a song, play a sad song. We're going to, all the liars come forward. I've preached in huge churches, got wonderful responses, the applause of men, and went to my hotel room and got in a fetal position. Got a good love offering and got in a fetal position. Just out in one little shattering thought about your awareness that you are not a good person. Just one little thought that you're not really a good father or a good mother or not a good child or not a good this or a good that. And the little least thought questioning your identity can leave a person totally dysfunctional for months or years, 20 to life sentence. Is that right or not? Yes, it is. And if you don't believe me this morning, you're going to stay stuck where you are and where you've been all this time. And you know what? I can't help you. I can't help you. But if you'll listen to me, because this is what God's saying to us. I'm going to tell you what, it ain't too late for you to enter the glorious liberty of the sons of God. That thing that's in you. How do we combat all that? Those things are merely thoughts. I'll try to teach you that, the past only exists in your mind. The future only exists in your mind. There's no tangibility to it. The only thing we got right now is now. I said, all you got now is now. And I'm going to tell you, I know from experience, your now can end at any second when you least expect it. I'm not going to live my life worried about what the future is or how it is. I'm going to take charge of that now. I'm going to make decisions now. Thoughts that disable us can only be changed, but what I've tried to say over and over and over again, you just can't cast a thought down. You have to replace it. Anybody remember me preaching that? It's right because you just go home after I preach and don't even meditate on the word and things like that and don't want to get it in your heart. What I preach, you need to listen to 2 times at least. Now, the thoughts themselves are really not the problem. but it's because they are seeding points that change your reality. And it's really the energy from God out of your connection in your own soul that empower you to overcome it. In my relationship to God, I believe in seed time and harvest. I live my finances that way. The economy of God. Tithes, offerings, alms. That's how I live. And I'm going to tell you something. It's never failed me yet. All the recessions, all the drops, and all that stuff, just like that. But these seeding points that grew into something that changed my reality. From bitter fruit, I got rid of that tree, but guess what I did? I planted sweet fruit. And its reality is the energy from Yahweh. And you know, one day I hope you get delivered from thinking Yahweh is just this old man that's sitting up there, you know, and whatever. It's the power of the universe. And when I say that, I don't want to take away the him being a person, but the fact is, he is the uncreated one. He is a spirit. He's not just this old guy up there sitting on the throne. And that God connection that I have in my own soul, because spirit's one thing, but soul is that intellect and that will and those emotions. That's what I'm getting saved. My soul needs to get saved. Y'all hear me? My body is going to be transformed one day if I get my well done. But in the process, I'm saving my soul. It's not your thoughts. Your thoughts don't really empower you. No matter, even if your thoughts can be perfectly right, perfectly beautiful, perfectly good, straight from God, no error, no gray, no black or black. A perfect mind construct. Guess what I found out? Just that ain't enough. But what it does mean is that my door is open. For what? My door is open to Him to do what He's been wanting to do. And that is to come into me. To come into me. The hope of my glory. Christ in me. The hope of my glory. And I look at it like this. I call it an energy. You know, people say you're going to ask Jesus into your heart. I think that's unfair to do that. You want to go there? You know, I think it's unfair to say you're going to ask Jesus into your heart, because no, Jesus can't come into your heart. But there's this energy called God. And I said this years ago, I used the word energy, said, you're new age. I said, I hope I am. I don't want to be old age. I said, let me tell you, all of the new age stuff ain't nothing but a counterfeit and an imitation of God. Astrology is nothing but imitation of God's heavens and astronomy. So I'm not worried about, they took the words from us. I can use their terminology because it's our terminology. And the energy of who and what God is comes in. And if it's really real, I'm going to tell you what it does to you. It'll vibrate you. You go look that word up, okay? Don't think you know what vibrate means. You go home, look at the word vibrate. Vibration is a powerful thing. The medical field is learning about vibration right now. Hey, guess what? You ever heard somebody say, man, you got good vibes? Huh? Brrr, come on, baby. Whoa! I'm Pentecostal, see? If this is what I'm saying to you right now, if that's really the energy of the Father of all things, Himself, that created you, that's wanted access to your soul ever since you were created. Before the foundation of the world, Yahweh wanted access to you and me. He wanted entrance into your life and into your soul. I've heard it say all my life, behold, I stand at the door and knock, he'll hear my voice, open the door, and let me come into me. And that really is about a Jewish wedding. I've taught it before, so I don't know if we even got it on Ustream or not, but maybe I'll teach it again. Beautiful thing. And there's an exchange of stuff. It's a beautiful thing. But this is the problem with you, okay? You said you'll receive this. Will you consider this? I'm talking about you this morning. I'm talking about me, of course. I'm going to talk about you. Will you take it and say, Johnny, you're talking about me today. I don't know what you're going to say, but you're talking about me. How many raised your hand and say, I'll do what you say here. Okay, everybody write a check right now for $1,000. I'm going to ask you something harder than that. Giving money is the easiest thing in the world with God, with our relationship with God. See, he wants access to you. He wants to enter into you. But guess what? There's somebody standing in the door blocking him. And guess who's blocking your door? Guess it. I already gave you the answer. Who wants to guess? Somebody say it. No, not you. Don't say you. You say me. Exactly. You're blocking him off. Behold, I stand at the door and block. That's what I should have named this, Doug. Behold, I stand at the door and block. Can't change that for me, all right? I love that one. Do you know that your Creator, who has all things that pertain in life and godliness, to who you receive all perfect, he's perfect, he gives you the perfect gifts where there's no shadow of turning or variableness, that all the healing and the joy and the peace and the kingdom and all of that, you will not give him the right to come in. Nobody has the right to make me not let God into my life. Nobody. No amount of money. I'm going to tell you what, your girlfriend don't have the right to stop it. You hear what I said? Your boss don't have the right to stop that. Nobody has the right to block God out of your life. From the creation, there's only one that God has given the right to give access to the courts. Better in one day, the Bible says, in your courts. Better is one day in your house. Well, guess what? This is God's house. Yep. When I say that, what do we think? We think about heaven. It's better, no, the better day. And God said, no, it's God coming into your house. Come into this house. Magnify the Lord. Your house. That's what God's wanting in. You're the one that stands in the doorway and gives access, and nobody else can stop that. Which tells me this: if it ain't happening, it's your fault. If it ain't happening, it's my fault. I can blame people. I can blame circumstances. I can whine. Oh, you don't know how hard it is. No, let me tell you what. You're the one, but you're also the one that can step out of the way and say, come, enter in.
Yes.
God's house. You are God's house. Johnny, what's the entrance way to what you're preaching on? You are. You're a door that can be opened. And the holy place is within you that belongs only to God, because belongs only to Yahweh. We want to enter the Holy of Holies, the outer court, the inner court, and the Holy of Holies. Let me tell you what, if you reverse it, Yahweh wants into this. Somebody advised me, probably properly, not to use this illustration, and I really prayed about it, but I want to tell you, you know, they didn't say not to use it. They just said, oh, yeah. But this is what I feel like Yahweh said to me, that we are the vaginal opening of life and light and perfection of beauty. It's such a holy, precious thing to receive life from God. And the holy place is within us that belongs only to God. This is for Him only. So until you're ready, you're just going to be the same old, cycling, going in circles around the mountain person you've been for the past 20 years, even though you know the true gospel. I've taught you the true gospel. It's not your ideas about God that stop Him from coming. I've taught you about God. I've taught you about Yahweh. Your ideas about Him ain't the problem. I've taught you to understand who He is. That ain't the problem. It's your ideas about yourself that's the problem. You'll listen to me. Yeah. I'm going to tell you right now, y'all listen to me today. It's the ideas you have about who you are. Yeah. That's the problem. Your sense of invalidity. Your sense of not being good enough. Your sense of lack of worth. Your sense of whatever it is that came with you in the birthing process, and not to count what happened to you after that. That carried you into your incarnation. That's part of the journey of transformation from glory to glory into full manifestation. There comes a time that there came a time where I had to embrace all that. Danette and I went to see Will and Lindsay Thompson. We stayed in their home. He finally got it finished. They're beautiful, wonderful friends. We had a great time. And I wanted to take her to a special place in my life. It was the Jetties, St. Andrews Park, child. And I didn't go all the way down to where I used to go. But I remember I told you the story of this time in my life. And I felt drawn to go back to that place, and they had these pavilions there, and I was so broken at the time. I was just hungry for God, and I felt unworthy, though. I mean, these things, and I confess to you, things that happened to me as a child that I think brought me under the bondage of certain mind seed, which with mind constructs. Even though I would force my way through it, and I was, arrogant and cocky and strong, or whatever it was, my reaction to it. But I knew I was at a special time, a Kairos moment for me. I've come into the end of me. And I went to that place, if you remember, and the Jetties is a place on Panama City Beach, and it has all these rocks that go all the way around, and it protects. It's like a big swimming pool almost, and it's like a big kiddie pool, really. The waves don't hit you. And it was packed that day. And I was up there on top of that hill, that sand dune, in that little pavilion thing they had built. It was pretty big. And all of a sudden, man, I started weeping. I mean, I wept. And I wept. And I wept. And all of a sudden, it started raining. And I felt like it was 1,000 kids and the women and some men came up there to get out of the rain. And there I was, heaving, crying. And I couldn't stop, and I didn't want to stop. Because it was that day that my unworthiness and the shame that I felt as a child, that was always at the foundation of everything I tried to do, was always there. And it somehow, I felt, tainted my ability to really walk in everything God had for me. And I did pretty good, I think. in spite of that. All those feelings. I had to come to the time I had to embrace those things. That abuse, that hurt, that shame. Shame's a big thing. How many of you know what I'm talking about? The rejection of, people that their parents rejected them. Danette was telling me about a friend of hers whose parents sold her as a child. I mean, how do you get, that's deep stuff. And I had to be courageous. That even though I didn't feel good enough, maybe, I was pressed on. But I had to, this time in my life, at that time, in Panama City at the jetties, where I had a lot of memories, that I would no longer be afraid of those feelings. Because I found out that it's not my feelings that determines who I am. And I lived my life that way, but it was still always something that was always a battle for me. So I decided I'm going to own it. That is who I am. That is what happened to me. And I guess what? I'm not going to use religion to wipe that away. What happened to me in the past and the failures I may have had, I'm not going to use a religion to just wipe that away and say, oh, it don't matter anymore. It did matter. Because in my mind, it was the very base of who my identity was. It made me a liar. It made me hide things. It made me not want to be open because I hid secrets all those years. Are y'all with me today? I didn't want to use some kind of atonement to get rid of my sins and my doubts and my fears, but to own them and know this is part of my journey. I let them bring disappointment to me. And that's a horrible thing, guys. Disappointment's a horrible thing. I let it bring disappointment, but no, I said, no, I'm owning this, Jack. All these doubts and the fears, and this is part of the journey. And that's really what I want to say today in a few words to you. And I'm saying, let's go on. Let's move on. Let's do it. Let God help you. And I want to do this before we sing and before Reggie closes. If you're here today and I spoke to you, I'm not going to try to explain that. I spoke to you, but this is the word, disappointment. If you have disappointment in your life, come up here. I'm going to pray for you this morning. Come right now, though. If you don't just come up, don't fight with it. Come up right now, and I'll pray for you. If that ain't where you are, that's okay. You don't have to be. Disappointment. I know what it's about. I've been there. So I'm touched by the feelings your infirmity. Yahweh going to deliver us from that junk. God going to set us free from disappointment. Yep. Own it today. You know what? Yep. That's just who you were. That's what happened to you, babe. That's just what happened. Guess what? Own it. Own it now. But look about now. Now faith is. Hear me? Own it. Own it. I want you to lift your hands. And all I want you to do is surrender to Yahweh. So here I am, fresh and anew. I'm fresh and anew to you, Yahweh. This is about you and Him. I'm just going to pray, lay hands on you. It's about you and Him. This is the time for disappointments to leave. And this is not a disappointment. This is the day of your appointment. Yes. Can you own it right now? You're going to own it right now for Yahweh, right now. That's right, baby. That's right. That's right, baby. I surrender. That's right, baby.